To help finish off our anniversary year celebration in style, the Monster Handlers secretly invited some familiar voices to the Big Blue Bubble studio to help bring the iconic Mimic and the newly announced Young Course Seasonals to life in My Singing Monsters Dawn of Fire. After recording had wrapped, I, Monster Handler Matt, sat down with a group of monster music makers for a roundtable discussion about what it's like to create the songs and sounds of the monster world.
Hi, I'm Tom. I'm the sound design team lead and one of the composers on My Singing Monsters.
Hi, I'm Dylan, and I'm also a sound designer and composer for My Singing Monsters.
Hi, I'm Maggie. I've been around since the very beginning. At the time, I was a full-time teacher, but I popped in here and there and wrote the original tutorial and the original monster descriptions and did a whole bunch of the voices.
And I'm Dave Kerr. I was also around from the beginning, wrote a bunch of songs, and I'm pretty sure you've heard my voice in the game many, many times.
What makes a monster song monstrous?
Oh.
Monstrous? To start, I kind of had a couple things in my mind. Was one, that they're not perfect. And I think that was really key because I wanted it to be about accessibility, and kids can't sing perfectly. The other thing to me was about voice. It was a real adamant thing to keep the voices in there. But it's kind of, yeah, I think the monster is just the uniqueness as well. Trying to keep them all unique. That was my main kind of thing. So they each have, maybe it's a speech impediment, maybe they sing in their falsetto, but they're all unique. So it's the uniqueness and the imperfections that make them cool. To me, that's what I was.
In the beginning, we just started playing with sounds and voices. We didn't there weren't characters already developed. We were just going through our vocal ranges, doing everything we could do, the weirdest sounds we could think of, and Dave put them together and gave the sound to the artist. And I think that was Chris Elliott at the time, wasn't it? That he was given the original sounds and drew the monsters to go with the sounds.
Yeah, but what would be interesting is, so we've said our bit, but what do you guys see it as? It'd be interesting to see the difference.
Like you said, I think the personality of the monsters and in that the sort of imperfection, trying to stay true to that monsters universe, you know, as we're expanding and making new islands and things like that. But also the element of expand the universe and not necessarily repeat what's been done before. It's always sort of a balancing act of staying true to the, like, what gives the game its personality, why people love it so much, you know? But also trying to venture out into new territory and new, I guess, genres, so to speak. I feel like it always ends up being monstery if we have people with unique voices doing, you know, injecting their personality into it. And even the instrumental monsters, we try to sort of give some sense of uniqueness, like you said, you know, whether it's through processing or just the way the part is composed, this sort of interplay between those elements.
I think part of it too, when we started, is it was a lot of fun, and I know you had a lot of fun too, is pushing our voices to the maximum and learning what we could do with our voices. It wasn't like trying to play a piece of music or sing a song according to a piece of sheet music. It's thinking, what can I do with my voice and how weird can I make it sound and still control the sound of my voice when I'm doing that? And it was an amazing learning process too, discovering just what we could do with our voices.
I would go hoarse many, many times.
Oh yeah, there was definitely that. A lot of times when we had to stop because the voice was just, there was nothing coming out.
Usually straining your voice in a particular way to sound like that character. And there's
Brett, he's horrible for that.
Yeah, exactly. But there's definitely a freedom in sort of creating those characters in that way. Like if you're used to maybe a more traditional approach to music, coming into a situation where it's like sometimes disregarding the traditional means of music, you know, pitch and timbre and all of those things, and just kind of letting
keeping
loose,
it like actually listenable.
Yeah, it's like, you're trying to strike that balance.
Because they're going to hear it looped like a million times.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing about video game music in general, but certainly in a game like this where, you know, you have a sort of set song and, you know, you are growing that song over time, but there are certain parts that you're going to hear, you know, nonstop. So it's, trying to make those interesting and unique enough and have enough personality sort of stand that test of time.
It was fun doing some of the different voices too, and you think about when I did Pom Pom at Pom Pom, I was yelling at the top of my lungs.
Yeah.
So that was, Pom Pom was just the loudest controlled sound I could possibly pull. And I remember when we recorded that, having to step back and back and back from the microphone.
Yeah, big time.
Because we really had trouble getting that sound without it distorting. And then doing another voice that was just the tiniest whispery voice, like Wisp, yes, that's right, is doing the whisperiest voice. And then in the game, they're brought to the same level so that those two characters are side by side or mixed together, even though in the recording, you've used the extreme opposite ends of your vocal capabilities.
In the case of composing for monsters that already have an established personality and voice, what are the specific challenges associated with breathing new life into them, giving them more to do? This was like the case for sure with Amber Island that we made, where like tons of those characters were established. All of the ones from Dawn of Fire, Barb and Flower and Fangler and Boscus and Cana. So was there a specific hurdle you had to jump there creatively to try and make it still feel like it was a continuation of those characters?
Yeah, I mean, there's both creative and technical challenge and just logistical challenges. Like in some cases, the voice actors are no longer available. In some cases, they still work here, so we got to, bring them back in however many years later to do that voice again, which was fun, like Flower, for example. But yeah, in some cases, we had to sort of source people that could do their own interpretation of that character in the context of that island. Because I think, the parts do evolve across islands. They're not always the exact same in terms of their delivery, but obviously we want to do the best we can, to stay true to the character and the personality of it and all of that stuff. But yeah, so, I mean, we just kind of did our best in terms of sourcing people that could match the personality of that character and find a way to sort of channel it, in the context of the song to make it kind of feel natural and still a part of the universe, In
a pre-existing island too, you're kind of like fighting for space with what's already there.
Yeah.
And sometimes if it's like a big personality or a big sound on a monster, it's like if you were starting the island from the ground up, it's like, that's one thing. But in a song that's already established, I always feel like the weight of the expectations of people, where it's like, I don't want to like suddenly trash a song that people like, especially, like visiting like the older islands. It's like, I don't want to bring someone in and suddenly just usurp the entire thing.
Yeah, but it's that, again, a balancing act of like, you want it to have an impact when it arrives, but you don't want it to blow everything up. So, it's always just kind of figuring out what the balance is between those two things.
Yeah, I think because we evolved quite a bit, the characters. In my mind, I think you said it earlier, we were talking about, you want to keep things fresh, but keeping the core of it. And the way I always thought about it is there's several things that made a monster a monster. One, what they said, whether it's Ma going D, 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 or, Fur going, being in a falsetto. And so there'd be a couple little parts that made them, and changing one of them at a time is okay. But changing them all, you're gonna, so if Furcart says da, well, that's fine. Or the cadence, the tends to be the pattern that they follow. And then sometimes you just throw it out the window, go, Congo can sing now on Tribal Latin. But, I think there's still, and like with Pom Pom, she was always kind of cheerleader, but she can change the cheer. So it is tough to kind of keep it, but I always have the rule of 75% regular and surprise them with 25%.
Yeah.
Pom Pom's loud on certain islands, but then you get to an island that's kind of mellow and soft, and you're like, well, she's gonna be quiet on this one, and that'll change it for you. It was, it's always about making the song sound good. And if you got to make Aunt Brat really quiet, well, you got to make him quiet. And maybe he turns operatic one time just because it fits better.
Right.
But to me, that was always the most important thing. So I think the song would always make it fresh on its own, kind of thing.
Next question is more, like I said, for Maggie and Dave. Obviously, both of you were responsible for bringing a ton of these iconic characters to life. What's the experience like now, being sort of on the proverbial other side, receiving creative direction from this team to like bring new parts of older characters to life? Is it like a trip? Is it unusual at all? Is it fun? Is it challenging?
Well, this is fun. I find this easier than when we first did it.
Yeah.
Because when we first did the voices and sounds, we were coming up with the voices and sounds, and that was tough. And then it was even harder when you say, aha, this is the voice we're going to use, and then thinking, how did I do that? I don't remember. How did I make that sound? And all of these things I know, I remember exactly how I made yippity-yay. I know where in my mouth it is, and,
some of them, I mean,
in my head, but some...
The seasonals were easy. Of course, there's going to be emotional attachment to certain things, but at the same time, I think the most important thing is to keep this going. You know, to me, it's really about the kids and the exposure that they get to the music and everything. So, yeah, no, I'm more than happy to come in and play the actor, be on the other side of the camera, per se. But, you know, I think really it's about the kids to have that. Because, man, some of them, the emails I get, I'm sure you guys get so many things, it's just so heartwarming. Like, it's really cool to see how you affect them and getting them into music. I mean, I think that's so important these days. So
yeah.
Dylan, you've been responsible for a lot of the remixes, club versions of familiar songs that appear as part of our summer song celebrations. DJ Epic, Hula, that sort of moonlights as this house EDM who takes the Monsters music and sort of interprets it in this new way. Are there any tips or tricks or things that you keep in mind when you're trying to adapt existing beloved music and give it a fresh spin?
It's tough. I really just, because I got my start doing EDM, so I kind of just always would just feel it out and find whatever the most notable sound is in something I'm remixing, and then just see how can I break it. So I think about the first summer song I did. There's a part where I just have the dipsters just going absolutely nuts in the second half, just doing up and down arpeggios and stuff, just because.
Why not?
Yeah. I like to hear them go crazy. I also like to play with genre, so sort of exploring as many different subgenres of EDM as possible is fun to me, specifically because I love to see, I Control F on the YouTube videos whenever they release, and I'm searching to see who picks up on maybe some reference or little thing I did, how I tied MSM into some subgenre or Daft Punk moment. I know some people caught that on the first year, and yeah, I love to see that.
So many people doing TikTok videos and things now too, where they're recreating the song in all these unique ways. It's really cool to see. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for someone who's maybe just perhaps starting out or looking to refine their own style, or just want you to chat about your experience with music in general?
I think ultimately it's just about creating for your own satisfaction. It's hard to not necessarily sort of come off as cliche when talking about this kind of stuff, because there's always
it's passion.
Yeah, there's certain things that are reiterated because they're true, and this is definitely a case where the most fulfilling creative ventures and the things that keep you wanting to do, to make music and be creative in whatever way you are creative are the ones that, you sit back and you're excited about, and, I see the music that the community is creating as a sort of offshoot or, their own interpretation of the music of the game. And it's really amazing how much care they put into the process of creating these things. And you can see that passion in what they've made. It's obvious. And so I think it's just about sort of maintaining that passion, that vigor for just creating for the sake of it,
Yeah, just don't stop.
Music to me is I think it is considered one of the most abstract arts. So it's really something that just comes from the inside. I think it's great to copy my Singing Monster songs but further away you get, the more you make it about yourself and your self-expression, that's when I think every, comedians find your own voice, directors finding that, that to me, I think is the heart. So yeah, practice with other people's stuff.
Yeah, if you do want to imitate something, and like you said, it is good practice, it's good training, and it's where everybody starts, you know. But I think ultimately it's about taking whatever sort of seed of knowledge that you pulled from that project and bringing it into your own world, whatever that means. And like you said too, living life and doing other things and, you know, being present in those moments is what gives you the fodder to like sit down, you know, at a computer for 12 hours and make something that is meaningful to you, you know. You need that balance.
What's your favorite My Singing Monsters song?
Oh, God.
Oh.
This is what the kids ask me all the time.
I know, well.
And I'm going to tell you this, I don't have a favorite, but I always say Plant Island because it was the first.
If I think about the whole experience, the thing that comes to mind is bum, ba-bum, and that is the very beginning, the first sound you hear when you play the game, and just that feeling when I came to understand this is real, this is a thing, and just sort of having the hair on your arms stand up, and I really relate it to that sensation of realizing, oh, it's real, it's real.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite too, just because of that feeling.
It's so foundational to it, yeah. Wobbling Island, I just think is sick. I love the way that island sounds. Every time I listen to it, I'm like, oh, I forgot how dope this was. But I love Amber Island a lot, and I was getting so heated when it was only at the beginning and people were like, yeah, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this song? It's like so empty. It's like, no, you don't know. There's so many more monsters yet to come. And once it filled out, everyone, like it clicked and everyone's like, oh, this song is great.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long sort of gestation period, I guess, from the time that we released the first wave to the very end. And it was definitely like patiently awaiting for the, you know, it's an interesting approach to like, you know, you don't normally, if you release a piece of music, you release the whole thing, you don't, you know what I mean? It's not, it's not hard. Usual occurrence, you know, you gotta like be patient and, you know, be confident that like what you sort of, the overall vision is gonna kind of come to fruition at the end, you know? It's between ethereal and earth, I think. Earth just, yeah, it's got a dark energy to it that I like.
Music is at the heart of My Singing Monsters, and we hope that it continues to inspire your worlds of creativity just as it continues to inspire ours. Special thanks to Tom, Dylan, Maggie, and Dave for sharing their time, talents, and insights with us. And until next time,
Happy monstering!
Now I'm recording.